Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Random Reviews. I'm your host, Daniel, and today I'll be reviewing the first episode of one of my favorite adult cartoon series, Archer. Episode 1 of Season 1, Pilot/Mole Hunt. The scene opens with a man about to be tortured. The man in question is Sterling Archer, the world's most dangerous spy, known from Berlin to Bangkok as such. The man who is torturing Sterling is a KGB agent who threatens to torture Archer with a go-kart battery. Upon Archer questioning this, the man angrily rebuffs that it is a golf cart battery. The two then proceed to argue until it is eventually revealed by a woman exclaiming, "Son of a bitch," that this is nothing more than a simulation, and that Archer was never about to be tortured in the first place. As it turns out, the man in the room with him is a man named Crenshaw, who is Archer's colleague. And the woman who is conducting the simulation is Archer's self-absorbed and domineering mother, Mallory Archer, who also is the head of this intelligence service. Upon Archer criticizing his mother's choice for his codename Duchess, who it is revealed to be Mallory's pet dog who died from eating chocolate, which according to Archer was not a very intelligent thing to do for a dog so smart, according to Mallory, she terminates the exercise and says that Archer's performance is deemed unsatisfactory, to which Archer protests that it is, at worst, needs improvement. The next day, Archer wakes up in a bed with a French woman, with clothes strewn all over the floor, and as the phone rings. The man on the other end of the phone is the dry cleaner, complaining that Archer has an overdue bill on his account and that his clothes have been ready for a week. Archer greets the woman happily and suggests that they go down to breakfast, until he flips out completely when he notices a dog, as he has a strict no dogs and no mother policy, which he angrily reiterates to his faithful and loyal butler, Woodhouse. A flashback shows that Archer, heavily intoxicated, demands that Woodhouse make an exception to this rule, as he believes that the dog, Abelard, is very intelligent. Archer criticizes Woodhouse for this, saying that he is always insistent, and no matter what he says, he should not be trusted. Woodhouse meekly agrees, to which Archer further threatens and humiliates the poor man by stating that he needs to go get sand, preferably coarse sand, so he may rub it in his eyes, assuming he comes back and finds one single dog hair in the apartment. Oh, and I should mention that he kicked the French woman out along with Abelard upon seeing the dog, as he does not like dogs. Archer then proceeds to his workplace, proceeding through a secret entrance, which is, in fact, the head of the dry cleaners, at which the dry cleaner complains that Archer still has not settled his account for a week. Archer retorts that the man is not professional either, as his clothes smell like curry. He picks them up, his clothes I mean, and proceeds into the workplace. He then greets a female intern, who angrily threatens Archer that she has HR on speed dial. He then approaches Cyril Figgis, the timid yet light-hearted accountant of ISIS. International Secret Intelligence Service is the name of the intelligence organization, I should point out. And from this point on, I shouldn't use that term ISIS, as it has another negative connotation. Or I will, as far as the series is concerned. Cyril Figgis questions Archer's expenses, saying that there are a few discrepancies that need to be sorted out. He states, however, that he does not believe Archer would use the account for personal expenses, at which point a montage is shown of Archer Archer's illicit expenses in question, including Rolex watches, one-night stands with various hookers, and including him putting $500 on black at a blackjack table, roulette table, which he promptly loses, forcing him to apologize to an African-American man and offering him a prostitute. Excuse me for laughing, as I've just recently watched this episode as of last night and couldn't stop myself from laughing in preparation for today's review. He then approaches Lana, his ex-girlfriend, who tells him to shove his head up his ass. It is then shown that the two of them used to be in a relationship as of 6 months ago. However, Lana was put off by Archer's constantly talking about, his mother. One flashback shows that after Lana and Archer had sex, they agreed to put on some interracial porn, only to be interrupted by a phone call from Archer's mother, to which Archer says he is happy to watch porn and talk to his mother at the same time. A statement which I'll just leave there for you to contemplate. Archer then approaches his mother, who is in the middle of a very intimate conversation with an unknown individual. Mallory is in the process of getting highly aroused by talking suggestively with this unknown person, only to be interrupted by her son, whom she angrily berates for interrupting the call and berating him for his expense account discrepancies, and saying that ISIS is not Archer's personal bank account to do with which whatever he likes, and that if he doesn't square his account by Monday, he will be in big trouble, and several agents who may be vying for his position now will not have to vie for it. He will be replaced. Archer disbelieves this and goes to greet Cyril, as I have just mentioned. I apologize for mixing up a few details there. We are then introduced to Pam. The reason Archer goes to all these people is to try and get access to the mainframe, which he does not have access to at this point, to try and square his funds illegally. We are then introduced to Pam, the overweight head of HR, who is constantly a gossip, and a running joke is that everyone listens to Pam but talks about her behind her back, a trait which will later be rectified in others later in the series, to where Pam is still a gossip but can stand up for herself and is actually quite likable. All these characters are quite likable in their own quirky way. Archer offers Pam donuts, to which she promptly shuts the door in his face. Prior to that, we are introduced to Cheryl, actually Carol, who is infatuated with Archer, who accuses him of standing her up. Archer apologizes and says he'll make it up to her, only for him to selfishly state that he needs access to the mainframe, to which she says she cannot help. Archer then proceeds to the mainframe and tries to shoot bullet holes into the access pad and the door, which of course does not work, the door being bulletproof. Crenshaw catches Archer and mocks him for his performance and trying to get into the mainframe. The two of them argue, and Lana then walks past Archer and knocks the donuts out of his hands. Archer states the danger of doing such a thing, as donuts on the ground can attract ants. A very true statement. Archer then discusses on a rooftop how to get into the security mainframe, stating it is very difficult, as along with pressure sensors that can be detected be set off by a mouse, invisible lasers, and a voice verification grid. These things all need to be overridden to have access to the mainframe. He then asks Carol, who it transpires who he has taken out to lunch, for help. She says she can't give him access to the mainframe, as she is just the secretary. Archer then suggests that she seduce either Cyril or Pam or both, to which she says she can't do that. Archer, then fed up, prepares to leave. She asks him if he is going to pay for his lunch in tears. It is then shown that Cheryl is highly unstable and very emotional, including the fact that she cannot eat ice cream, being lactose intolerant, even when Archie yells at her repeatedly to eat it. He replies that he is just going to give the tip. Back on the rooftop, Archer manages to zip line across to the mainframe, only ripping his turtleneck in the process. He manages to enter the mainframe using Cyril Figgis's voice print, having prank called Cyril earlier in the evening. Earlier in the evening, I should also point out, Cyril and Lana, whom are in a relationship, Cyril is making stir fry. Actually, Stir Friday, a name given to him by Archer, whom had previously approached Cyril later in the day to quote-unquote apologize for the way he'd spoken to Cyril earlier that morning, in an attempt to suck up to Cyril to get into the mainframe, to which Cyril said he couldn't do that, he'd have to clear it with Archer's mother first. Archer comes up with the story that there is a mole in the agency, possibly including his mother. Cyril, doubtful of this, says he cannot help Archer. Unfortunately for Archer, whom had also told Pam and everyone else that I have just mentioned about the mole's... Pam, who had told everyone else about the mole's existence. I should also mention that when Pam was first introduced, she was talking to Krieger, the scientist, who often comes up with outlandish and eccentric experiments for the team, and is a major source of comic relief, although at this point he does not speak. Pam had spread the word around of the existence of the mole, which does not exist. Cyril and Lana start to have an argument when Lana receives a phone call about the alleged mole. Cyril, unfortunately, cannot stay in Lana's apartment due to a trust issue rule that Lana has, stating that even though they've been dating for 3 months, Cyril has to leave when she leaves the apartment. Much to Cyril's chagrin, although he complies and goes with Lana outside, over to the ISIS headquarters. Now, having access to the mainframe, Archer checks his bank account balance, is horrified by what he sees, as he has nearly no money left, and manages to make it look like someone else stole some money. He then puts $50,000 in Crimshaw's account to make it look like he was the alleged mole and to put himself back in the black. Crimshaw then appears from out of nowhere and informs Archer that he is, in fact, a real mole. Pam, having spread the word around, not realizing the truth. It is also revealed that Crenshaw is in fact not his real name, but Kremensky, a Russian spy for the KGB. He then says that he and Archer will be going to Russia, and once he hands over Archer to the Russians, he will be promoted and get his own dacha. Having entered back into the main office area, they are promptly accosted by Lana, who threatens Kremensky, saying that he will never see his dacha, and prepares to fire on him. Archer and Lana then inconveniently have a massive argument over the failing of their past relationships, with Lana accusing Archer of carrying around a 35-year-old umbilical cord in relation to his mother. The two of them argue until they hear the digging sound of the elevator doors closing, Kremensky having managed to escape. The two of them race outside to apprehend him. Kremensky goes outside and sees Mallory talking to Cyril. Cyril explains what Lana is doing, trying to find a mole that was alerted to them by Pam. Mallory dismisses this as mere gossip and calls Pam an idiot, only to then be confronted by Kremensky, who eventually takes Mallory hostage after being warned by her son, Sterling, that Kremensky is a mole. Archer then grabs Lana in a Mexican standoff and threatens to shoot her. Much to Kremensky's confusion as he says he does not care whether Lana lives or dies, and advises Archer to contemplate what it would be like without having his dear mummy around. Much to Lana's disgust, as it transpires that Archer has an erection. The thought of Mallory being dead has caused him. Much to Tremensky's disgust, who lets go of Mallory and asks Archer what the hell is wrong with him. He is promptly shot multiple times by Archer, who states that he has a problem, as he is now dead. Mallory then angrily hits Archer over the head multiple times with her handbag, stating furiously that Archer would be happy seeing her dead. Archer rebuffs this by saying only half of him would be happy, stating the other half would really miss her. Back in the office, Cyril has a look at the account files and notices the $50,000 Archer had placed in Kremensky's account, and believes this money to be Kremensky, in fact, stealing funds from ISIS accounts and framing Archer for it. It then transpires, It then transpires that, according to Mallory, her disbelief that there could be a mole. In a flashback sequence, it is shown that she is talking to the head of the KGB, Nikolai Zhakov, a character whom we will see far more prominently in later seasons. A running theme with Mallory is her rampant sex life with an array of lovers, including Zhakov, which creates major headaches for Archer later in the series. So that was episode 1 of Archer, Pilot/Mole Hunt. Personally, I thought this episode was fantastic in setting up all the characters, their quirks, and their flaws. It is an hilarious show, which I would highly recommend to anyone who likes adult humor. The voice acting of H. John Benjamin, and the late, great Jessica Walter. And Chris Parnell, who voices Cyril as well, who also happens to voice Jerry in Rick and Morty, also does a fantastic job. Well, I hope you all enjoyed this episode. I apologize for then spacing out there. I was just thinking of what I should say next. Please leave a comment down below of an episode or series you would like me to review or to continue to review, if the case may be. Please subscribe if you like the content. And to my existing subscribers, thank you for continuing to watch. Leave a like if you like the video. And until then, my friends, till next time, be cool, stay safe. I'm your host, Daniel. Bye for now.